Oops. I forgot to turn off the music. How are you all going this evening? Yes, there was an Instagram live, which apparently doesn't exist anymore, but thank you to some amazing people. I was able to get a copy because we know that nothing is secret on the internet, that you know, you are found out. So we have got the Instagram live that's been deleted. Hi, Kim. We're going to talk about R Kelly because his former aide, testified today in court, or yesterday, or whatever day it is. Yesterday, Friday. And it was very, very interesting, some of the stuff that former aide has said. It's going to be very interesting to see how R Kelly addresses all of these issues. Then we had protests today for anti-lockdown and freedom rally. Where I live in Melbourne, there were 4,000 people with no masks protesting today. 218 were arrested. 3 were arrested for assaulting police. 6 police officers were injured in that rally. And those of us that are doing the right thing are very, very angry. There was also protests in Sydney. There was also protests in Brisbane, which I believe was peaceful, and protests in Perth. I wish people would realise that if they did the right thing, that we would actually get out of this thing a lot quicker. My fear is, as is the fear of a lot of people, that that protest today will be a super spreader and is going to extend our time in lockdown. So let's get started. Welcome. So I'll see who's here. It's like doing the roll at school, hey? So hello, Feel the Love. Hello, Laura. Hello, Kino. How are you? Did I miss anybody? If I haven't called out your name and you haven't said hello, say hello and I will personally give you a shout out. Yes, people are completely crazy for the love. Oh, hello, Kim. Sorry, I forgot you, Kim. I didn't mean that. I've got to look after my mods, otherwise they won't come. I was just scrolling through. Yeah. So let's look at what happened with R. Kelly, first of all. And I know people are going to come about the alleged live. There is a 7-minute live, which is part 2 of her Instagram stuff, but it was very, very bizarre, her Instagram live. So it says, R. Kelly's ex-aide testify about Aaliyah bribe Twilight work environment. So, former tour manager for R. Kelly told jurors at the R&B singer's SA trial on Friday that Kelly paid a $500 bribe in order to obtain a license to marry the singer Aaliyah when she was just 15 years of age after fearing he'd gotten her pregnant. $500 was the bribe. Oh, hello, Sandra. So Aaliyah was just 15 years of age when he married her. And allegedly, there was a fine paid of $500. So this is what was said in court. Jurors also heard testimony from a former Kelly aide who said that working for his former boss was almost like being in the Twilight Zone. The testimony came on the third day of Kelly's trial, where the 54-year-old, known for the Grammy-winning song "I Believe I Can Fly," is accused of running a 2-decade racketeering scheme in which he demanded absolute control over his alleged victims. He's got a 9-count indictment, describes his alleged abuse of 6 women and girls, 4 underage. Kelly, who has pleaded not guilty, has denied wrongdoing, could face life in prison if convicted in the Brooklyn trial. He also faces SA-related charges in Illinois and Minnesota. So Kelly's lawyers have said his accusers targeted him after the rise of the Me Too social movement against SA and harassment, seeking to profit or extract revenge after a relationship did not work. Demetra Smith, the former tour manager, said the bribe to obtain a fake ID for Aaliyah was so she could marry Kelly, then 27, back in 1994. Was arranged after Kelly told him while flying back to Chicago from a concert that Aaliyah was pregnant. He was concerned about her. Smith also said Kelly's accountant began making arrangements for the marriage and told Kelly to protect himself, protect Aaliyah. Asked by a prosecutor what Kelly needed protection from, Smith said, "I guess jail." Jurors were also shown the marriage license for Kelly and Aaliyah and heard testimony that Aaliyah's parents should have attended this ceremony because of her age, but Smith said they did not. Hello, short order cook. The marriage was annulled after 6 months, and of course, Aaliyah died in 2001 from a plane crash. So earlier on Friday, former aide Anthony Navarro, who trained as an audio engineer, so much of his work for Kelly over about the 2.5 years, ending in 2009, included menial tasks such as picking up and driving girls to be with the singer. Navarro, 36, said he also worked for other celebrities like Jay-Z and Kanye West. Navarro described a controlling atmosphere at Kelly's home in which people had to follow Rob's rules. Laura says, someone tried to justify his behavior because he is an SA victim himself. Really? Well, yeah. Wow. Including that he not speak with the girls and that their movements be strictly monitored. The thing you had to do was would just be a bit uncomfortable, Navarro said, almost like the Twilight Zone. Others who testified against Kelly this week included Geronda Pace, who said she was 16 when Kelly abused her, including by forcing her to call him daddy and get permission to use the bathroom. He's been he's been dogged for nearly 2 decades by accusations of sex-related misconduct, many discussed in the 2019 Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly. So there you go. Hello, Cal. So two of the people that worked with him, his ex-tour manager and an aide, have talked about the atmosphere and the environment. So very interesting that the tour manager said that it was a $500 bribe to organise the marriage for Aaliyah, which is 15 years, who was 15 years of age. So it's definitely very, very interesting. So yeah, I really am interested in the justification over Aaliyah being 15 years of age. I could understand if they had the parents and the parents had signed off and then say that they bribed the parents, but I don't know whether the parents actually knew at the time or what was going on. That is just a really weird, it's just weird. So I just find the whole thing really bizarre that even happened. So that's day 3. I think they said it was going to be a couple of weeks long. It looks like there's lots of allegations. And as I said, once he gets through this one, he's got to still face charges in Minnesota and Illinois. Yes, he is doubling down on the government. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say about New South Wales breaking the Australian record for cases. Yeah, he was 27 then, wasn't he? He was 27, she was 15. Yeah, 27 and 15. Still a bit of an age difference. So Australia, I know that all the countries are still doing their airlifting. However, Australia has taken another group, have airlifted another group of people. Now, I believe I was reading somewhere that one of the problems is now the Taliban have set up tolls and people actually have to pay tolls to get through to the airport now, they're saying. So these are Australian, New Zealand and Afghan citizens on a military plane. Hello, Sunny D, how are you? So the federal government is describing the situation in Afghanistan as uncertain, dangerous and difficult after an evacuation of another 80 people. So they only take about under 100 people, it would seem. So far, there's been 3 flights and they've evacuated 240 people. Those on board the Australian-led mission included Afghan interpreters, contractors who assisted the Australian Defence Force during the Australia's 20-year mission. Australian and New Zealand citizens and visa holders were also on the flight. It was the 3rd rescue flight, with more than now 240 people moved out of Kabul in the days since the Taliban overrun the city on Sunday. Now, the first lot of people evacuated out of Afghanistan or have arrived in Perth. Since then, many Australians have been unable to access the airport, with chaotic scenes showing Taliban guards blocking terminal gates, throwing smoke bombs and firing guns. Federal government frontbencher Stuart Robert, who served in the army for 12 years, said the Commonwealth was navigating challenging circumstances that continue to change rapidly. It's a very difficult situation in Kabul. So reports that the Taliban are going door to door in Kabul and other cities and towns to find people who work for former government, with many Afghans fearing for their futures. So those who are still in Afghanistan, the message remains constant. Keep in touch with DFAT, which is the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trading. Make sure your details are recorded, and DFAT will coordinate with you whatever the next steps are. Almost a group of 100 evacuees are in hotel quarantine in Perth after arriving in Australia on Thursday night. The federal government has come under criticism for not doing enough to help local staff. Phil Spencer, former AFP officer who served as a senior policing advisor to NATO, commanded in Afghanistan, told the ABC he knew interpreters who had not heard back from the federal government after applying months ago to come to Australia. People are saying that Australia's acted too slow. We are not going to be able to get everyone out like we would. Scott Morrison refused to act for too long. I fear that that is going to mean that people who should have got out sooner are not going to be able to be extracted out of Afghanistan. Yeah, so anyway, it seems to be that the Taliban are making it hard for people to get to the airport at the moment. It's horrible scenes from what I've seen. So I know that there's still a lot of commentary about the whole Afghanistan conflict. To me, it's just horribly sad, and I don't know that you can blame the Afghanistan people for this. I think the Western world has to take some responsibility for the situation that they're in. These are just my opinion. You're more than welcome to have different opinions than me. Yeah. I haven't seen the documentary Cheap Glass, so I should really see if I can find it and to try and get some context into it. I was really shocked when I heard Aaliyah was only 15, though. One of my biggest complaints, I mean, it's interesting that the Australian government's getting criticised for their slow action. That seems to be what they do. They don't act fast enough. They didn't act fast enough with the vaccines. The New South Wales government didn't act fast enough with lockdown, and it looks like they haven't acted fast enough with Afghanistan. So yeah. At the moment, my heart is just breaking because I was reading somewhere that the women had fought, had made so much progress as far as freedoms were concerned, and now all of that is in jeopardy. Girls can't go to school again now. And I also read that none of the banks have been open, and all the ATMs are empty of money, so no one can get money. So they've got no money. They can't get money because the banks aren't allowed to open. It's a really, really big disaster. And as I said, I just don't know what we can do. So this is the headline I was reading. Women in Afghanistan fought to play sport, and now they fear it's being ripped away from them. So 10 years ago, the Afghanistan's Paralympic Committee president had 11 bullets fired up a body, neck face, by the Taliban. He was left for dead. This week, the Taliban has returned, killing the dreams of 2 Paralympic athletes due to fly to Tokyo. So Zakia was to make history as the first female from her country to compete at the Paralympics in the debut sport of para taekwondo, while teammate Hussein Rasuli was to compete in athletics. How quickly history can turn. At the recent completely Tokyo Games, Afghan 100-meter Kamiya Yusuf broke her own national record set at Rio Olympics 5 years ago, and was also the joint flag bearer at the opening ceremony. She had much to celebrate. Instead, she's commiserating. I don't know if that was the last time I carried your honourable flag to the tournament. I don't know if I can still tie your proud name headband to my forehead and enter the race ground, she wrote on Facebook. My dear people, the strong girls of my country, may God keep you safe. For many, it seems God is their only hope, particularly the women, the groups most at risk at the Taliban's assurances this week they would respect women's rights. Although Yusuf represents Afghanistan, her family lives in Iran after they fled in their home in the 1990s when Taliban first took control of the country. As a refugee, she could not compete against the Iranian children she grew up with, but was identified in a talent search launched by the Afghanistan government ahead of the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. At the time, the International Olympic Commission encouraged all national Olympic committees to include at least one woman in their team. The AOC has earned both sponsors and positive headlines for establishing and supporting the Olympic refugee team. But this week, when athletes and officials in Afghanistan needed their support, emails querying what the Olympic body was doing was going mostly unanswered. So it looks like they're not going to help the Afghanistan team, which is really sad. So please, Afghanistan national female athletes, coaches and their entourage need your help. We must get them out of Taliban's hands, means Afghanistan in particular. So then there's Afghanistan's female football team. Looks like she's had to flee. So it's very, very sad that now all the games So this is the Afghan Paralympian. She needs help. She says, I request to you all that I'm an Afghan woman. On behalf of all Afghan women, please help me. My intention is to participate in the Olympic 2020 Paralympic Games. Please hold my hand and help me. Please, I request you all, especially all the women from around the globe and female institutions and United Nations, to not let the right of female citizens of Afghanistan in the Paralympic movement be taken away so easily. I've struggled a lot to get here. This in itself is a great achievement, but not to be taken lightly. I don't want my struggle to be in vain without any results. Help me. So hopefully the Paralympic, they can compete. So he's another refugee who was born in Afghanistan because he had no arms. They looked down at disability. He fled to Iran. So it's not very good what's happening there. So unfortunately, we failed. We failed the people of Afghanistan, and it's very heartbreaking, really. Hello, Jen the Sweet Tea. We're just talking about Afghanistan and how horrible it is over there, and particularly for the women. And they've got some Paralympians that are trying to get to the Olympic Games, but they don't know now whether they can get there. So, okay, Greenland. Let's have a look at Greenland. Scientists say rain falling on Greenland's highest point for the first time on record is another worrying sign of warming for the ice sheet, which is melting at the highest rate. The world's second largest ice sheet behind Antarctica had several hours of rainfall on August 14. In total, 7 billion tonnes of rain fell across Greenland over 3 days from August 14 to 16, the largest amount since records began in 1950. So rain on the ice cap is a bad sign. It's not a healthy sign for the ice sheet. Water on ice is bad. It makes the ice sheet more prone to surface melt. Greenland has also recorded temperatures above freezing, which is rare. The rain and high temperatures triggered the extensive melting across the island, which suffered a surface ice mass loss on August 15 that was 7 times above the average for mid-August. The record-breaking rain is the latest in a string of warning signs about how climate change is affecting Greenland's ice sheet. Greenland experienced a massive melting event in late July when enough ice melted in a single day to cover roughly an area 2.5 times larger than Tasmania with 5 centimetres of water. This alarming rain at the summit of Greenland is not an isolated event. Along with rising floods, fires, and other extremes, is one of the many alarm bells signalling the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, she said. So the Greenland ice sheet is starting to melt now at a rapid rate, which is really interesting. So there you go. It looks really nice though. So because it's melting so fast, they're saying that is proof of climate, of global warming. You see, Greenland had contributed to 25% of all sea level rises in the last few decades, with that number expected to rise to 40% by 2100 if carbon emissions continue to grow. Okay. So this is now to the thing that has me riled up. Anti-lockdown protesters clash with police in Melbourne. Smaller demonstrations in Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth. I guess it depends what side of. Hang on. Does Greenland have resources underground that are needed? Oh, yes, they do. Funny that. The Antarctic also has resources under it that are now being developed, and the ice melt has made. Yes, that's right. So, this is, unfortunately, this is very embarrassing because this is where I live. This is my city, and I'm absolutely embarrassed and disgusted by this. Watch this. Now, this goes on for about 2 minutes. It gets worse. Look at that. The thing is, from that footage, from the moment you watch them go up to the police, you can already see their intent is they're gonna you saw that they were going to be violent. The poor police did not deserve this. I'm not saying that the police are always innocent in these matters, but they don't deserve this. There are 6 police officers in that have been injured. They just had the intent of violence. They had no intention of protest. Some of them had no intention of protesting. You can protest peacefully. So police say that 218 people were arrested and 6 officers were hospitalised after today's violent anti-lockdown protests. Victorian police said there were more than 4,000 people attended the protest. Thousands of demonstrators were seen breaking police lines near Parliament House, where the demonstrators started. Violence erupted as mostly unmasked demonstrators moved through the CBD towards Flinders Street Station, letting off flares and chanting slogans. The most violent scenes were seen at Flinders Street, with protesters throwing objects at police, who responded with pepper spray. Now, I saw somebody had posted a video of a 10-year-old that had gotten pepper sprayed. Now, I felt really sorry for the 10-year-old because his idiotic parents had been there. But if people are throwing things at police and they're going to pepper spray, he was just one of those people that got sprayed. But the way that the parents were carrying on, it was, they were carrying on as if the police had just gone up and sprayed the kid. No, they didn't. So, so this was interesting. The behaviour seen by police was so hostile and aggressive that they were left with no choice but to use all the tactics available to them. For the first time during lockdown protests, police were forced to use a range of non-lethal options, including pepper ball rounds and OC foam canisters, in an effort to disperse the crowds. Most of the other protests have been peaceful. I believe the Sydney police outnumbered the protesters. The spokeswoman said 7 police officers were injured during the demonstration. 2 with suspected broken noses, 1 with a broken thumb, and the rest with concussions. Some demonstrators blasted music and many yelled anti-lockdown slogans, while others held up placards alluding to unrelated conspiracy theories. The bulk of the protests had dissipated by mid-afternoon. So there were 236 fines issued. Each person arrested will be fined $5,452 for breaching lockdown restrictions. Investigations will be continued. The police commissioner urged people not to attend the protest. It is tagged as a freedom demonstration, but it's anything but. Now, my fear is that there's going to be several people here that are going to have COVID. Now, I wouldn't wish COVID on my worst enemy. I think all of those people should have to go to the COVID ward and see what our health, our doctors and our nurses have to do to care for people with COVID, to see how much they really think about it. So because the regions went back into lockdown at 1 p.m. today because there's a cluster, authorities have been increasingly concerned with coronavirus spreading undetected in the community, with cases now spread right across Melbourne and more than 500 exposure sites. Protesting doesn't work against this virus. In fact, it may well contribute to the spread of this virus. And the more cases we have, the longer we'll be locked down. So these people may have just guaranteed that we're going to be locked down longer. So there are also protests in Sydney and Brisbane. Brisbane, I believe, was peaceful. So police also arrested people attending a protest in Sydney. There was a heavy police presence around Sydney's CBD. This was Brisbane. There was 2,000 people. That was peaceful. I have no problem if you want to be peaceful. But if you start being violent, you can't complain when the police are violent back. That's right, Robin. Many of them are children in hospital. Put some of those protesters in the children's hospital and see what they think then. More than 2,000 anti-lockdown protesters gathered around Brisbane's Botanic Gardens before a planned march through the city. It was largely peaceful compared to the clashes in Sydney and Melbourne. And there was 1,000 people attend a rally in Adelaide CBD. And again, that was peaceful. Ours do. So when they come to Jenna, sweet tea, when they come to Australia, they have to quarantine. So there's a group quarantining in Perth at the moment. And the Perth protest had 1,000 people. But it was interesting because at the rally at the State War Memorial and the Return Services League was not very happy. The crowd held a minute's silence and recited the Ode of Remembrance, with the speaker saying it was an Anzac Day ceremony because people could not attend the last 2 Anzac Days due to lockdown. Members of the media present at the protests were abused and harassed. But that one was fairly peaceful. The problem is people are angry because they have no job, no businesses, and the unthinkable debt, and there's no forecast as how they be helped. Where is the hope? Punishment does not help. Of course, and I understand that. I've used up all of my leave now, so I now have to hope that I can get the government's COVID payment. But because I'm on Us Study, I'm only entitled to $150 a week because I'm on Us Study, because I'm already being supported by the government. Apparently, because I was working, I can't be entitled to get any more money, or even the amount of money that equates to what I was earning. But anyway, I don't want to sit here and complain and whinge, but anything's better than nothing to me. So at least I'm able to access that money. But the easiest thing to do to get out of the lockdown is to actually just not go anywhere. Really? Yeah. Well, I don't know that the police always are headed. I believe the Melbourne one was. I don't know. I don't really want to. I'm not one to criticize people for doing their job, as such. And it's funny because the police are always damned if they do, damned if they don't. But from what that footage that we saw of the Melbourne crowd, you could see that they were aggressive to start off with. Yeah, and they went with flares and everything, and that's not peaceful. If there was a peaceful protest and the police were heavy-handed, I would say complain away. But there was, I agree with you, Robin. I think they were intending to be violent, and that's what I don't agree with. Well, I don't agree with the protests, but I just think if they've gone with weapons, they mean business. So, and and because I've had family in law enforcement, and I know people that have been in law enforcement, and I've heard their side of how things work. I'm a fence sitter, Cal. I'm a fence sitter. I also try to see things from both perspectives to try and get a balanced view. And I'll call things out if they're wrong. But you can see from that footage that people they sped up and they were running into the police line. That to me doesn't show people that were intent on protesting peacefully. Well, see, but that's the thing. But see, you could say the same thing about lockdown, Cal. That all the people that are doing the right thing are getting punished by the idiots that aren't. There were 4,000 idiots out there that all should be locked down. That all should be locked down, and the rest of us doing the right thing should be given freedom. But it doesn't work like that, because I keep getting reminded of school. I remember being kept in at lunchtime because there was a naughty kid, and we'd have to sit in at lunchtime, and and it was the one person that ruined it for the rest of the class. We couldn't go in at lunchtime. Oh no, I'm sorry about that, Dee. Oh, my heart's breaking for you. So unfortunately, it's the horrible people that ruin it for everybody, and that's just the unfairness of life, I guess. Because I have no doubt that we will have more cases jump now. And, like, everybody was angry. Everybody was angry at the Jewish couple that had their engagement party last week that had lots of cases. That's where everybody should be putting their anger to there, not at the government trying to prevent it. And you fakes are stuffed. Thanks, Tom. Some people obviously want to get the record back from Sydney, obviously, for the most COVID cases in a day, because I can't think of any other reason. Can't seem to get out of bed. Oh, sorry, Dee. That is horrible. No, I haven't heard about Anthony Kareem. Who's he? When he's home. No, I'm not from WA. I'm in Melbourne. Well, that's the thing. And look, I'm wondering whether poppy seeds. Hello, poppy seeds. That's my bottom line. Well, yeah, the children can't. You guys can take the record back. No, we don't want the record back. Exactly, short order cook. The weapons is not. The weapons is not good. We'll have to just make Dee laugh that and cheer her up. I was going to play some Katie Joy stuff that's not going to cheer anybody up. Oh, actually, no, poppy seeds here, because it's great that poppy seeds. You went around this morning when you got a shout out by Harrison. Oh, is he the guy that refused to COVID test, is walking around New South Wales positive? Is that guy? Is that guy? Because I'm sure that's that guy. Oh yeah, the puff him. Yeah, I'll just pull him up. Anthony. I know he was messaging me messaging you. I was with him, poppy seeds. I was supervising him, but he had to tell me what he was going to write to you before he did it, though. No, he just told everybody, poppy seeds, this morning that you like men with money, and he's got all the money. Poppy seeds like men with money, and I've got lots of money. That's what he told us today. And then he said that apparently he's coming. He said if you lived anywhere other than Sydney, he'd come and visit to you, but he doesn't want to go to a COVID place. You're more interested in helping because he told Poppy Seeds he was going to come and visit, but she said after his schoolwork. So he did all his schoolwork yesterday, and then looked up the prices of then looked up how much it was going to cost to look at the cost of getting to Sydney, and decided it wasn't worth the risk. So this is the Sydney man. So this is this Anthony man. So police have appealed for public help to find a Sydney man who they say has tested positive for COVID-19 and has failed to isolate. So they've got an arrest warrant out for him, who have failed to isolate as directed by public alpha. So he's actually out and about in the community. And they've given what he looks like, but yeah, he's out in the community spreading COVID. I'm glad that you've got some great kids. Anyway, yeah. So, but anyway, that's what Harrison said this morning. He was just saying that Poppy Seeds like men with money, and he's got lots of money. So it was so funny that he said that. Oh boy. And yeah. Yes, so that was on stream this morning. He said that about having lots of money, and Poppy Seeds like men with money. So there you go. Oh dear, so funny. But having Poppy Seeds here actually might not be a bad thing, because in Katie Joy's Instagram live, apparently she's a legal expert, because she's been reading court documents for many years, and she's been in her own court matters, and therefore that makes her an expert in law and able to interpret legal documents, because she tells somebody who wants to get the documents that they're very hard to understand unless you're properly trained. And it's hilarious. I laughed. So have I got 3 dislikes already? I had 2. 2's enough for me. You would think so, wouldn't you? And she also says she's not going to sit a deposition, that whatever Todd Chrysler says is not true, because she can't be. Probably John and Gladys are watching. Harrison also said that John Barilaro was an idiot this morning, and I also had to tell him that he had to say in his opinion. I said, "What do you know about John Barilaro?" He goes, "I've watched your videos." Whoops. Oh boy. Well, that's right. Most of the lawyers will say they're not giving legal advice. Oh, look, that's always going to happen. I don't know. Yes, well, that goes to court on the 30th. They're back in court on the 31st. Now, I'm going to actually speed up this playback speed, because I'm doing it through my Google Drive. So now we're going to head to the Katie Joy stuff. So we're going to hear, she's going to talk about, she discovers that somebody knows some Duggar information and she doesn't, which sends her into a bit of a spiral. But she talks about court documents. She talks about a lot of nothing. You'll get, all right, so here we go. So I have sped it up, so she's going to sound like a chipmunk.
Hi. Kind of got messy because I was getting in bed.
messy head. Hello, plan to create. What to lockdown, plan to create. So all of the regional areas are now being put back into lockdown. And this live, by the way, has been deleted. She's deleted this live. So does not exist anymore. But as with everything, the internet is forever.
Oh, get him to bed. No, I'm not afraid of a deposition because I'm not sitting for a deposition. So good luck with that. Hi.
Oh, come on. I like to share, plan to create. I mean, I figure if I've got to be in lockdown, everyone should be. Everyone should join me in being locked down together. It's funny because a lot of the students that I study with, they live in the country. And they all complaining about going back into lockdown. And I said to them, what's this back into lockdown business? What? We're still there. We're supposed to do a whole pile of prac. They brought in this new requirement, and we've got to do 3 years worth in 1 year. And it's looking like now we're not going to be able to get any of our practical work done because everything's closed. So
good. Please stop bringing other people's drama into my live stream. Y'all.
That's because someone talked to her about Todd Crystal. Yes, yours. You know what? Poppy seeds. I don't think we'll be far behind you. I think we have at the same time frame. We're supposed to end on the 2nd, but after those idiots today, we'll be extended.
Spend more time worrying about things that I don't care about. I'm sitting here. Hi. Okay. I'm good. You guys are so cute. You loved my reporting on YouTube today. I've been doing a little bit deeper dives lately. I feel like it's so easy to get like caught up in like the gossip that surrounds it, but there's so much stuff that just needs to be talked about. And
so telling everybody how to avoid getting caught by the FBI for CSAM is a deeper dive, hey? Remember, that's what she did. That was her live the other day, where she's told everybody what was where she told everybody how to avoid getting caught. Does everyone remember that the other day? And she told us where to go to get all the information from.
As long as I have an audience, even though the videos are not going over 100K right now, it doesn't matter to me. There's still enough engagement on these videos to like expose the bullshit that's happening in this cult and why people like Josh are just able to offend them.
So she's talking about the cult. Well, look, Tom S., our Bunnings has been closed straight away. I mean, a lot of people are really upset. Today, just when you think you couldn't have gotten more stricter restrictions, childcare now is permit only for essential workers. Schools are for essential worker kids. You know, we have work. You can't go to work without a work permit. So, which means you're an essential worker. Everything's on permit schemes. So everything's click and collect. It's funny. I've moved to a different suburb of my area. Where I used to live is where all the COVID hotspots are. All the places I used to shop. All the places I used to shop are now hotspots. Gladys has a crystal ball. Did she actually borrow Katie Joy's short order cook? Because she's without one at the moment. Yes, I am. It's in my community tab. I'll post a link on it. But yes, church is on. You're working on a Gladys video? I did read something on Twitter that there's a rumor going around that they're looking to get rid of her as leader. because that means she can be dealt with ICAC quicker or something. I don't know. Lots of gossip and rumor.
Medallion is like a it's like a coin press thing. I don't know. And it says "I love you." It's like it says "I love you."
So she says it says "I love you." It's actually an image of an eye with a love heart and a U. That's what it is. Oops. What is essential? Essentially, if you cannot do your work from home, we have a list. We have a 3-page list. Wow. Well, they're getting close. 800. Well, that's what's been our premier's been really harping on about the fact that it's children, and he said, "I'm not just asking as the premier. I'm asking as a father." So he's gone to and he's appealing as a parent now to people to do the right thing. Well, the thing is, it'll be interesting because, you know, you had Justice Reyes say that parliamentary privilege can't be used in any, you had that ruling with Friendly Geordie. So all the politicians are probably rubbing their hands with glee, knowing their parliamentary privilege is safe.
And this is my son's initials. Loving each other.
And also, we actually didn't have children didn't get COVID during the last outbreak. And so this is all very new and all very scary for everybody. So the number of schools that have been caught up in it is alarming as well. And in fact, I think they've brought in today as well that children have to wear face masks now. I think from the age of, I don't know what an age limit is, but Harrison's had to go get a face mask. He doesn't like wearing it. You should hear him complain about it. But they're just now they're throwing everything that they can at it. All right. Great pause.
The page is so addicting. Is that my page? I love that. I want to do more stuff on purity culture.
She's going to teach us about purity.
And I want to do more stuff on just like other people that are in this help and just the purity culture in general. Because IBLP is like ridiculous, but then there's just other subsets within the world of IBLP that aren't necessarily IBLP, but they have like a lot of the same beliefs. People have such a hard time accepting the fact the base are also in this cult, and I cannot figure out why. Girl Defined is bananas, but Girl Defined already has like a bunch of YouTubers that pick on them, and I'm just not down for that. There's already so many people that pick on them, and it's just, I don't know.
It's interesting how she's used the word pick on them, because I thought she reported. So why would she not follow somebody if it's picking on them? But if she's reporting, why would you be concerned about picking on somebody if it was reporting?
I've done a few videos on them.
Oh, and I had to laugh. Anyone that was on the stream this morning when Harrison was talking about, we're watching Jimmy Reeves, which he loves to watch, and Jimmy Reeves kept talking about corn. And if you're on the stream last night, you would know that we were using corn for a different word, and I got the giggles. And then Harrison's going, corn, 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 corn. I know, that's my point. Poppy seeds. It's just a weird thing to say, but anyway. She's triggered by the baits. So someone mentions the baits and she's going to get triggered.
I don't know, you guys. I feel like if you guys knew the politics of the baits, you wouldn't be crazy about these people. Like, I feel like if you really understood who these people were and what they stand for and what they feel and what they want, I don't think you'd be crazy for them. I just don't. I feel like they just do a better job of hiding what they believe. They're still extremists, sadly.
They're still extremists, hey?
Lawson Bates, if you want to take a look at his Twitter, that should tell you literally all you need to know. Lawson and his brother were at the insurrection, you know, like, they're the same as the Duggars. They're friends with the Duggars. They don't go to college. Here's the thing, you guys. Crown College is not real. Crown College is literally an extension of the IBLP. It's like IBLP college.
She's shaking that head. She's nodding. She's shaking that head so badly.
It's not real college. So it's not college. It's inadequate and it's not college. A girl going to cosmetology school is wonderful, but if any one of these people think that these girls are gonna, like, I don't know.
Did she just say that cosmetology school is no good? Is that what she just said? I'm just gonna take that back. Have a listen to what she says about cosmetology school, because that is probably offensive to a lot of cosmetologists out there. I'm just saying, but listen.
So it's not college. It's inadequate and it's not college. A girl going to cosmetology school is wonderful, but if any one of these people think that these girls are gonna, like, I don't know.
What's she trying to say about cosmetology school? So I think one of the Bates went to cosmetology school. I think that's where that's come from. So. I love how she says, yeah. Well, I still want to know what she was trying to say about cosmetology school. Is it the fact that it's bad? If you... yeah, your wife and mum-in-law would be angry. Is that the impression that you got, Will, that she was saying that cosmetology school's not very good? That was the what I got from that. I'll just take it back again.
A girl going to cosmetology school is wonderful, but if any one of these people think that these girls are gonna, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what her point is, other than to say that she doesn't think it's very good.
Gil Bates, I was on Embassy Media, so I purchased a subscription to this cult for you guys. I just want you to understand this. I purchased a subscription so I could get access to the media that they put out to the cult members. Gil Bates has multiple talks, like sermons from this year on the cult's website in their media that they're selling to people. So people that want to believe that this cult is not the...
So someone says, so it's a trade school, which means, but trade, what's wrong with trade schools? There's nothing wrong with trade schools. Just, you don't actually have to go to college or university to be successful. You can go to trade school and learn a trade. Oh. I mean, remember when the water heater died and they had to call somebody to come and fix it? Where do you think that they went to? Trade school. Why do people look down on trade professions? Not to be hypocrite, but like KJ, why do you contribute to the world? So, anyway. And when her toilet gets blocked, who's she going to call? She's going to call that person that went to trade school. Or if they got problems with their lighting, somebody that went to trade school, the person when she goes to get her hair done. Trade school. Well, they reckon the highest earning tradie, one of the highest earning tradies is a plumber, apparently. That's what they say. That's fine. So to look down at people that go to trade school is not very good.
He's on the board. There are talks on the embassy media by Dill where he talks about dirty, nasty women who have opinions, and he calls them, horrible names.
Why did she have to use that phrase? Just dirty, nasty women. Oh dear me. You went to trade school twice. I don't know. In Australia, you actually are supposed to have a nursing degree to do Botox injections, so you would have to be a nurse.
There are talks on the embassy media by Dill where he talks about dirty, nasty women who have opinions, and he calls them, horrible names.
Why did she have to talk? Why can't he say he just talks about women that have opinions? But why did she have to say dirty, nasty women? She's trying to be serious, and I can't take her seriously. Oh, industrial maintenance and drafting. Wow, they're pretty impressive trades.
He jokes about corporal punishment of his children. No, Crown College is not accredited. If you go back and look at the Bates before they vanillaized their social media, see what this cult has done is they've done a really good job of hiding their bigotry. But if you go back to the old Bates stuff, you'll notice that they wore Confederate shirts. They had Confederate generals on their walls. There was a lot of links to the Confederacy.
I have to say, I don't know much about American history, but I only know what I know about it all. I learned on the Dukes of Hazzard. So I'm sorry. I always wanted the Duke of Hazzard's car. I wanted to be able to jump in through the windows. I don't think I could even try now. Oh, cool.
Yes, you can share info from the website. Thus far, I don't know of any of the Bates kids that have left. I mean, some of them do think it's a cult, but
Oh yeah, she did do Spanish, didn't she?
Abby Duggar grew up in the cult. So her like destiny is to be a subservient woman. John is still super active in the cult. Sad. I think Abby was an LPN. Yeah, Erin Bates had a birthday cake for Bill Gothard at her wedding. Clown College probably has more accreditation than Crown College. Pacer doesn't make you pay for 300 pages. If you're going to buy the transcript, it might have that many pages. You can.
All right, now now we're about to get her, now we're going to hear all about law. So Poppy Seeds, I hope you're listening, because apparently you don't need to go to law school to be a law expert.
Pay for whatever document you want to buy. I buy documents as I go, but I have an account, so I just get billed monthly. And I've had an account on Pacer for years because of reporting. Court documents can be tricky to read if you're not familiar with them, so you might need some time to like dissect what you're reading. I've been reading court records for years now, so I feel
Trade that paid by. Oh, really? Oh, cool. Oh, I've got to rewind that. I have to tell you, this bit had me in stitches.
because of reporting. Court. I buy documents as I go, but I have an account, so I just get billed monthly. And I've had an account on Pacer for years because of reporting. Court documents can be tricky to read if you're not familiar with them, so you might need some time to like dissect what you're reading. I've been reading court records for years now, so I feel like I've got a good handle. And I've had my own, been through my own litigation, so I understand the court. I've been through my own litigation in federal court, so I understand the rules of the court.
But what would it be? What would it be if the person that made the comment, she's just assumed that the person knows nothing about court documents? What if that was a lawyer? Let's just say Poppy Seeds had popped in there and had just said about something about Pacer, and she goes, you know, they're just not easy to read. I've been reading court documents, and I would have loved to have heard them say, well, I'm a lawyer, you know. Oh. She just assumes that all the people watching her are stupid.
So I've been getting a lot of information from this guy named Chris, who used to admin or was an admin, or he helped out on the Recovering Grace website.
So she's just outed another source, by the way.
So Recovering Grace was a website. It's still up, but they don't update anything more, where they housed a lot of information about the IVLP. And they were instrumental in bringing forward stories of people that claimed that they had been abused by Bill Gothard or by other people within the organization. So one of their like admins provides me with everything. Like, he will email me after I do a video, and he'll explain to me in the terminology of what Josh and Anna were saying on their video. Or, you know, the video I did yesterday where Josh was talking about how he struggles and how he had to confess to his testimony.
So she'll go away, and then she comes back, and she in about 20 minutes has read 4 or 5 legal documents that was filed by the Duggars.
So yeah, he was explaining to me about how all boys in this, every boy in the IBLP struggles, but they don't differentiate between a struggle. And he says he has a hard time believing that anyone from the IBLP would have sat someone down and told them, I molested so-and-so, because they don't use that language. He said they would have said, I struggled with impure thoughts, or I had impure ideas, or something like that. And he said that it's highly improbable that he would have just like poured his heart out and told her what happened, because they don't use that kind of language in that world. He said they don't use words that are sexual at all. So everything gets sort of like dumbed down, and you don't really, there's no way to differentiate between something that's super like mild, which he said most guys.
All right, this is hilarious what she says. So I think Toad's trying to escape. Listen to this.
Stumbling is literally, looking at a lingerie ad in a magazine. That would qualify them struggling with impure thoughts.
The minute Poppy would have said she was a lawyer. But KJ wouldn't even find out what jurisdiction or anything. She'd just go crazy because she'd just go crazy. Although I must tell you that if KJ can be a lawyer, I'm sure Poppy Seeds could actually do okay in the US. Super mild with KJ.
Yeah, the IBLP homeschools through the ATI. And the base to the ATI, and so did the Duggars. They whitewash things. They're also very obsessed with the Confederacy. I'm pretty sure Bill Gothard was a raging racist because he literally hates equality of any kind. If you read through...
What's a raging racist?
The wisdom books. He literally hates rights for anyone. He hates civil rights for people that are people of color. He doesn't like women's rights. He literally hates any rights that are taken away from what he perceives away from the white man. Because...
Well, she was complaining that Cody Brown's cameos were boring, and I want to know how she knows that. She had to have ordered them, wouldn't she? How do you know how someone's cameo is?
Bill Gothard, in his twisted mind, thinks that God only wanted white men in power. And he's like, for that reason, obsessed with the Confederate government. And he also wants states' rights. He doesn't like federal rights. He doesn't think the federal government should be able to have rights over anyone else. When they teach history, in there, they only teach it from the like Confederates' perspective, and basically how like everything fell apart because they lost the Confederacy, and they need to get back to the place.
I know, it's funny, isn't it, Shorter? It is very funny. She's looking. It does look like that.
Where
she's going to get triggered again in a minute.
We had no federal oversight, and everything was perfect until they lost the Civil War, basically. So he was never married. He was never in a relationship. He never had kids, but he told people how to be married, how to have kids, everything. So I was watching a video, you guys, and it was Michelle talking about,
All right. She's going to talk about glue sticks and other things here. So if you get triggered by this type of stuff, I just need to let you know. As we know, she just goes off and she can go from something normal into something disgusting within seconds. So this is your warning.
Things that she teaches her kids about parenting, and Joanne and Jessa were on stage with her. And so in this cult, you have to understand they are really sneaky. They have code words for everything because they like hide. This is what these cults do. They have their own language. They have their own like lingo. And so in the cult, like the parents know.
No, you haven't misheard anything. But it's not the IBLP, is it, that uses the glue sticks? Is that correct? Or is it? Because I know Suzanne from, she was saying that, I don't know, it was a different cult that did it, but I can't remember.
That if you openly talk about corporal punishment, you can get in trouble. And then they get afraid of like discussing punishment because at one point, they used to talk about it openly and then it created like chaos. And so they've shied away from openly talking about it. And now they call it loving correction. That's how they refer to corporal punishment. And correction does not mean you're telling someone no. Loving correction is a plastic glue stick that's flexible, or a ruler, or a rod, or a switch.
People my age would know about the ruler or the belt or the you know, it was wooden spoon. That's what she's talking about here, I think. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying a lot of people my age and older, she's got to remember her audience. And just because, yeah, for a lot of her audience, they're talking about stuff that happened to them. A glow stick, a glue stick cult.
And Joanna was sitting there on stage with her mom talking about how she was so grateful that her mother corrected her, and she was a loving corrector. She never corrected her in anger, and was thanking her mother for basically abusing her. These kids do not understand that they have been abused. They believe that they are being, it's like a mandate from God that they need to be corrected. So when they talk about loving correction, it's not, you did something wrong, sit in a corner. Correction in this cult is corporal punishment. Yeah, loving corrections equal beat your kid with a huge glue stick.
Can you get huge glue sticks? I don't like this KJ case at this point. I feel like it's just a gossip circle. Why does it matter outside entertainment? Yeah. We all know KJ, like Joanne says, you have to know your subs if you'd let them speak. Well, and that's the thing, because a lot of her subs would have grown up with that as a punishment. And so she's really, yeah. We know that in today's day and age that that's not acceptable. But, and I'm not saying that the Duggar, you know, I mean, it shouldn't be used these days. However, it was acceptable. I don't know how big the glue sticks are, Rufus. So part of the thing about this Cal is that we're just calling out a lot of what she says and correcting a lot of what she says. My part of my thing is that I feel that she's dangerous, and she has all these people watching her. And if we can get one person to open their eyes, in fact, a lot of the people that are on now, we're watching her and have all had their eyes opened and seen what she's really like. If Jean comes on later, Queen Jean, she used to be a really diehard Katie Joy fan, and eventually she got sick of it, you know, the way that she treated people, and she came to the, I don't want to say side, but she now sees it from a different perspective. Hello, Into the Wild Blue. Have you seen the hot glue gun sticks? That no, see, I only know of the little hot glue gun sticks. Are they really big, long ones? So I'm obviously naive.
No, it's not normal. It's so sad. Yeah, thank you for beating me. It's so sad. I'll see if I can download that video. and show you some.
And the stuff that she says about you can call out cults, but you don't have to be nasty about them. And the way that she speaks about people is really, and you'll hear her get triggered in a minute. And what she says to the people, what she says to a subscriber who disagrees with her, is what we're talking about. So you'll see it in a minute.
Clips of it.
And it's around Josh Duggar. It's around the court document and a filing where apparently it's Trump's fault. And so, anyway, you'll hear about it. And somebody says something bad about Biden. She loves Biden, and she goes to town. And then Todd gets involved. So, anyway, we've still got that to come.
Like she said, I knew the corrections were going to be bad, but I was always so grateful that my mom wasn't mad. She was never angry when she was correcting me. And I knew we would have to talk, and I never looked forward to it. But I'm so grateful for my mom being so loving when she corrected me. So imagine your mom is like telling you, I love you, and then whipping you. Like, what if...
Hands up those that were told this hurts me more than it hurts you. Or I'm doing this because I love you. Because what she's essentially telling us is that all of our parents abused us. That's what she's saying. This hurts me more than it hurts you. If I ignored the behavior, that would be not loving you, but correcting the behavior means I'm loving you. Hands up right here. I know, see what she's I was yelling and going, are you telling me that I was abused? Oh, I'm sorry that you got abused, Cal. And that's why I'm saying she doesn't know her audience either.
Confusing way to grow up.
What a confusing way to grow up. That's how most of us grew up. Someone says, my dad used to whip us with a piece of rubber and tell us that he loved us. So she's got people in her chat telling her that, and she's just ignoring it.
Motion to dismiss the indictment. Is that brand new?
All right, so now we're getting into this. Yeah. Now she's about to get triggered because now she's found out that there's a court filing that something's appeared on Postal about Josh Duggar that she's missed.
No. Today was the deadline for anything.
Right, and you got the wooden spoon? Oh, I got the wooden spoon too. And poppy seeds, we're going to get legal opinion again now. And not once does she say, I am not a lawyer. Not once does she say, this is just my opinion. This is what I believe. Not once. So, yeah, so I took exception to that because she's essentially alienated a whole generation, really, because to imply what she says here is, very... I just found it offensive because she's just implied that a whole group of us were abused because our parents would say, we're doing this because we love you. Yeah, well, that's what they said.
I didn't expect them to do a motion to dismiss. Today was the deadline for anything. They had to file it today.
And she'll also make judgments on the lawyer, Poppy Seeds. It's really quite funny. It's not funny. It's sad, actually. Really sad. It is really sad. Oh, that's all right, Kel. You don't have to. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. I really am. And that's where I find that people like Katie Joy are dangerous because she she doesn't respect that there are people that do. And she thinks that everybody that something happened to them was, and it's not right. So someone's posted a link about it too. So, but yeah, so get ready for all the legal stuff.
Links don't work in here. Trump's Homeland Security leaders were unlawfully appointed. Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me.
Now, when
they're not going to get dismissed because they were unlawfully appointed.
So she's laughing. So somebody's telling her what the documents are, and she's essentially mocking the person for saying what the defense is. You watch this. This is disgusting.
Illegally hired by Trump. I thought it was Biden's fault. They were not illegally hired by Trump. My God. Those Department of Homeland Security officers, the agent that did the investigation, has been in the bureau for like over a decade. Seems legit. Amanda, please get some legal help. There's nothing legit about.
She's just told so someone says they seem legit, right? The documents seem legit, and she's told someone to go get legal help. Did you hear that? We know the person that needs legal help because she needs to stop talking. Have a listen.
They were not illegally hired by Trump. My God. Those Department of Homeland Security officers, the agent that did the investigation, has been in the bureau for like over a decade. Seems legit. Amanda, please get some legal help. There's nothing legit about. No.
So she says, it seems legit. I'm worried. Yes, Remnant Fellowship. That's it. It was Remnant Fellowship. Correct. I remember Short Order Cook. That was them. So she's confused her cults again. So, and remember, it's a shoot. Like we're assuming that the people have just read the documents and don't know how to analyze them or anything. So rather than use this point as a way of a teaching point, we just make fun of everybody and be condescending.
They had to do this today. Today was the deadline. You guys, you have to expect this kind of stuff. Okay, Amanda, take a deep breath. You're not going to dismiss this case. Please. This chick, I don't know, she's really upset about this. She really today is the last day and they have to file these documents. They have to throw a Hail Mary or they're not going to get rid of this case.
Cool. That's great. I'm glad, Cal, as I said. And this is what she does. And this is what we need to call out. And you can be having a general conversation and she'll just go there. So I haven't seen the documents, but apparently there's a conspiracy document in there about Trump now. So she's making fun of her people watching her. Watch this.
Okay, Amanda, take a deep breath. You're not going to dismiss this case. Please. This chick, I don't know, she's really upset about this. She really today is the last day and they have to file these documents. They have to throw a Hail Mary or they're not going to get rid of this case. It doesn't matter if the document was very thorough. They're lawyers. It will go nowhere. The lawyer is doing his job. They're not going to dismiss the case on illegal placement.
Here we go, Poppy Seeds. See, I bet ya. KJ is my mentor. See, Poppy Seeds? I know, it's what a way to embarrass everybody. But she did say she was going to win against Tardy as well. And she also criticised, I think, Josh's lawyer on, or was it Josh's lawyer? No, Steve McRae's lawyer on his statement of claim for the. Look, I'm not saying her points, Poppy's. I'm not saying that KJ's points aren't correct. I'm talking, for me, it's the way she's talking to the people watching.
Okay, Wath, Mama, and Amanda, you should go talk in a corner, I guess. Anyone can file a motion. It doesn't mean it gets granted. His lawyers have to do something, and they're going to do anything because the evidence is not in Josh's favor.
In your opinion?
So they're going to do anything to dismiss this.
In your opinion?
Lawyers, of course, they draft things. Do you know his lawyers also drafted a 30-page document where they accused Gerald Faulkner of having no credibility, and then they withdrew it a week later? They're blaming Trump. Just be glad that they're blaming Trump.
Well, the reason why they probably asked for the indictment to be dismissed is because they know that they don't have a defense.
Yeah.
And so, if that gets granted, if they won't, then
In your opinion?
they don't have a fighting chance.
Like if they were going to actually fight this case, they would be asking for like evidence suppression or whatever like that, or they would be arguing like technicalities. But to literally ask for a dismissal on a federal indictment, do you know how improbable that is? Like,
in your opinion?
90-some% of these cases, only 7% of these cases get dismissed. And it's not going to be because Trump appointed someone illegally. Because then every other case that has been indicted under Trump, they'd have to dismiss them all. Do you know what kind of precedent that would like put into place? So because Josh Duggars people were appointed illegally, then they're going to dismiss every other conviction. Like they have to file something today because today was the deadline.
She refers to on Instagram as them throwing all the poo on at the wall and hoping it sticks. I thought they were questioning the interview before he was read his rights. That was one of the things that I thought they were questioning. And remember, the other thing is she hasn't seen the documents at this point, and she's going by what they are saying to her. So she doesn't know at this point. Oops, she's disappeared. Josh Duggars' case. She's disappeared. Where did she go? She's disappeared. Oh, I didn't download it. I should have downloaded it onto my computer. So essentially, while she was live, there was some documents hit for the Josh Duggar case, and people are telling her about it, but she's been told by the people what's in them, and she's mocking them because they're going, well, they're well written and everything. Let me see what's going on. She's disappeared. She's not working. I'll wait for her to come back. So what are we thinking so far? Oh, the internet's had enough of her. The internet always. She ghosted me. Probably. Oh, that's funny. I've only got 4 minutes to go. No, look, I don't know that she will change, and that's why I thought backing off about talking about it, because it's obvious the behaviour is not going to change, but there's always new subs, there's always new people. And then she said she's actually going to do a live probably tomorrow and go through all the documents. Now, based on what I've seen already, well, we watched her read the transcript the other day, and we questioned so much of what we saw then. I'm just downloading it quickly. So if you need to take a rest break, now would be the time to do it. She's got the second part on her Instagram. She came back after 7 minutes to say, nah, they're not going to win. They should have used they should have used the constitutional defense. It's like, what do you know about US constitutional law? Like, what? When did she become a US constitutional lawyer? Oh, thank you. I don't think it's going to work because it's the NBN. But thank you. Rufus disturbed. It's the stupid. It's the NBN. We've got Mr. Turnbull to thank for that. Thank you, Kim. Lovely of you. Very lovely of you. Just don't tell Harrison, because he'll want to put it. He'll put his hand out for a share of it. It's so funny. I'm with iNet. I've been with them for 13 years now, but we've got fibre to the curb. Stupid. Oh, documents. Cool. Thank you. So you still want me to get the harassment filings? Is that what everybody wants? Me to get the harassment filing, the public documents, the little Miss Noble? In fact, there are some days, Robin, I think my old internet, when I was living in my previous suburb, I had ADSL 1, and I found that was even faster than this at the moment. I have fibre to the basement. Oh, nice. Okay. You know what, Wind Whispers? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. And he'll always say, what was the live like? What was the live about? And I'll say, oh, I can't remember. And then he'll go and tell me what it was like. He'll tell me what was said. And I go, well, why did you ask me then? He goes, I wanted to see whether you'd tell me. So funny. You're in IT? Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I've been with them for I'm one of these people that I'm very loyal. I've been with them for 13 years. So I do what I can. All right, so what we might do while we wait for this, we'll go to her Instagram and watch part 2, because part 2 is afterwards. And you will see her interpretation, and where she talks about the fact she's going to read the documents. And Poppy Seeds, I would recommend not watching that one. We watched documents online the other night, and I think we were all ready to scream. I know loyalty gets you nowhere. I know that. I'm very much aware of that. Noted. All right. So she did this one. So this is her second part. Hopefully this works. I'd love to see Harrison and her son have a podcast together, because I reckon they'd be both as cheeky as each other. Harrison got an award the other day as well. He got the Values Award for having good work. So this was her second. This was when she came back.
Okay. I just read all of the Josh Duggar stuff. Well, I glanced over it.
So she's glanced over it. She hasn't really read them, but now she's going to give you an interpretation of them. You ready, Poppy Seeds? You'll love this.
All of it. And it's kind of comical, in my opinion. Josh and his attorneys are wanting to say that the two people that were the acting leaders of the HSI were wrongly appointed by Trump, and they didn't go through like a Senate confirmation. The problem is that the GAO brought that up like in 2020, and they didn't do anything about it. And no cases that have been prosecuted under those people have been overturned.
I think I'd see you, Rufus. Thank you. She did say, in my opinion. That's the first time she said it.
So I'm highly doubtful that it would be overturned based on that, or dismissed based on that, because, well, then every single case that was prosecuted under those two would have to be overturned then too. And I just don't see the government doing that. And it seems like a long shot. So I don't see that going anywhere. He also wants to throw out the statements he made, which I told you he was going to want to do. And he wasn't under arrest. So asking to speak to an attorney is irrelevant because he was never under arrest. And they had a search warrant for his phone. And they were there for his phone. They said he could use people's phones. He wasn't denied from using other people's phones. He could have used anyone else's phone. They were there for his phone. So again, I think that's bullshit. They want to, for some reason, get rid of photos of his hands and feet, which I don't understand what that has to do with anything. There was some sort of affidavit from some chick that understands torrent download crap. Again, I think it's bull crap. I just feel like they're literally just clogging up the court with as many options to see if any one of them stick. That's my opinion. I've never seen so many motions filed at one time. So he wants to dismiss.
She's never seen so many motions filed at one time. Yeah. Of course not. We don't.
Based on witness statements that were not provided. So they say that it's constitutionality, something like there was another suspect that could have been interviewed. The problem is that The government doesn't like to dismiss cases without litigation and without a trial. So, right. So the idea that it's going to get thrown out because of wrong appointments by Trump, doubt it. Not going to happen. My opinion. The idea that they're going to throw out his statements, I don't think so. But even if they did, the statements are irrelevant because they still found what they found. The idea that they're going to throw out information based on witness interviews, doubt it. I don't know. They might throw out the photos they took of his hands. That was the only one I was like, well, maybe that'll get suppressed. No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal. Judges don't like to dismiss.
Did she just say the prosecutor wants the dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal? The government are the prosecutors. The defendants want the dismissal, and the prosecutors or the government doesn't. Did she just say? This is why she's dangerous.
Interviews, doubt it. I don't know. They might throw out the photos they took of his hands. That was the only one I was like, well, maybe that'll get suppressed. No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal.
She did. The prosecutor wants the dismissal.
No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal.
The government are the people that are prosecuting. I'll do it again.
That's the only one I was like, well, maybe that'll get suppressed. No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal.
The defendants want the dismissal. That's the defendants that put the documents in. The prosecutors want to prosecute. Am I correct? The government are the ones that are prosecuting. Go listen to that again.
I don't know. They might throw out the photos they took of his hands. That was the only one I was like, well, maybe that'll get suppressed. No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal. Opinion.
So yeah,
That they're going to throw out information based. Right. So the idea that it's going to get thrown out because something like there was another suspect that could have.
Good night, Cal. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here every time you're here. So thank you. That's right. The prosecution and the government are the same thing. That's why it doesn't make any sense. She's meaning to say that the defense want the dismissal, the prosecution don't. But that's not what she said.
Have been interviewed. The problem is that the government doesn't like to dismiss cases without litigation and without a trial. So, right. So the idea that it's going to get thrown out because of wrong appointments by Trump, doubt it. Not going to happen. My opinion. The idea that they're going to throw out his statements, I don't think so. But even if they did, the statements are irrelevant because they still found what they found. The idea that they're going to throw out information based on witness interviews, doubt it. I don't know. They might throw out the photos they took of his hands. That was the only one I was like, well, maybe that'll get suppressed. No prosecutor wants a dismissal, but the government doesn't want the dismissal. Judges don't like to dismiss cases. Period.
Really? Oh, that reminds me. I was reading today that the case that Dutton, the guy that Dutton's suing for defamation, that failed at mediation. The judge sent them to mediation first because over here, they don't like clogging up the court systems. And I know it's a criminal, but yeah, they prefer to try and do everything so you're not clogging up the court system. Oh. So anyway, she does get excited. Well, I get excited over court cases too, because I have to say, I mean, I follow, although I seem to think I follow exciting ones. I seem to, you know. She did have somebody in one of her videos tell her that she should study law. Could you imagine her studying law?
And again, I have to add, they are not denying. They are not denying at all that evidence was found. Only how it was found. That's what I always think is so funny with these people.
Well, if you remember the other day, she was talking about a MacBook and then she was talking about a HP computer, and we hadn't worked out what one was what. What about her? I can't remember. I think it wasn't a journalist. I can't think of who it was, but that's got to go back before court. And I know I took a screenshot of it because it was the law firm that did it, and I was going to actually look into it further, but I'll try and look into it and get some more information on it. But they don't make the politician cases public interest cases, and I reckon they should be public interest, because if politicians are suing members of the public or people, oh, you mean Dutton, yeah. If people are suing, if politicians, federal politicians or any politician are suing people, then we have a right to know as the public what's going on. Is that the dog hiccuping?
I don't know why they took. I think the photos were when he was being booked. I've covered a lot of legal cases, and I'm just saying that, like, judges don't like to throw things out. They don't.
That's her qualification. She's covered a lot of legal cases. Me, I just asked Poppy Seeds a whole lot of questions. I just go, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Oh dear.
Yeah, I think the witnesses that are his brothers. And one of them said they like to look at porn. So apparently he wants to blame that person.
I thought there was a Randy or Ralph or something.
Oh yeah, they claimed that, yeah. They just want to try to, like, get rid of it. Like Jim Bob I told you yesterday or 2 days ago that Jim Bob was going to do everything to get him off on this. I told you that. He'll do everything. He'll spend every last dime.
I was right. See, I told you. I was right.
Anyways, there's so much, like, in there. No, I'm not sick. I'm tired, though. It's late, and I'm exhausted. His lawyers are literally throwing up the most ridiculous shit ever. They're like, everything is a conspiracy, you guys. Literally, everything is a conspiracy. It's almost like Jim Bob Duggars written the defense.
Oh, so she knows how Jim Bob Duggar writes, does she? Listen, in the federal indictment, they the one way that Josh would win is that when he asked for his attorney. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That was I think that was what Emily D. Baker said his strongest point was, and I've heard that from a few other lawyers as well that have covered it. And in my reading of stuff, that seems to be the strongest point that they seem to have had. It had to do with because they were having a conversation with him before he'd asked for his attorney, and they were trying to interview him or something, and you can't do that or something. It was a procedure. He may get out on a technicality from what, but not according to the law expert here.
2 weeks to respond, and then they get to respond. So, anyways, I'm gonna go to bed, you guys. I might go over some of the stuff later. I might do a live stream on it. It's a lot of documents, and it's just a lot of crap that to me seems irrelevant. The most important shit is that they want to blame it on Trump. So, news at 11, the Duggars want to blame something on Trump.
So there you go. So that was the second part, okay? Because we haven't finished the first part yet. We'll go back and finish the. So that's after she went and checked out the documentation. So as I said, we've got the legal opinion now. We're right. I wonder if it really does say what she says it says. Okay, still isn't going to work. So I'm going to close this. I've actually got the file now. So let me just pull up the file and we'll just grab it and open it up and go for it. Go back to the 22-minute mark. Where we were up to. I just found it really funny because you can't. 22-minute mark. Here we go. Here's where we were up to. She just talked about the prosecutor. So remember, we've skipped back in time.
One illegally. Because then every other case that has been indicted under Trump, they'd have to dismiss them all. Do you know what kind of precedent that would put into place? So because Josh Duggars people were appointed illegally, then they're going to dismiss every other conviction.
They could. How does that make sense? Because that would only happen if everybody else was placed illegally. So why does it affect every other case? What's her point about saying then everyone else appointed would have to be done illegal? That may not necessarily be the case in common sense, in my opinion.
They have to file something today because today was the deadline. I will read the documents. It's late. And I'll let you guys know. I'll go over them with you all. And I'll tell you how ludicrous they are. I knew so he filed that whole motion to compel, and you know what he got? A screenshot where he can find out who took the screenshot. And he also gets to know the date that the screenshot was taken, and if there's a report that the other two guys made. That's it.
All right, let's just say it's dropped on a technicality. She refers to him as a, I'll show you what she wrote on her Instagram and her Twitter. She could be, they could actually sue her for defamation. But yes, I think her head would explode if he got off on the technicality, because she's been telling everybody that there's no way he can get off.
They spent half of their motion to compel accusing Gerald Faulkner of having no credibility. Seriously. And then that got removed. They withdrew it.
Didn't she file a document about another lawyer? Just saying, look, if she wants to be really critical about people, let's not forget the documents that she filed in court. Let's not forget that beautiful defense, that beautiful motion to dismiss. That was a genius work of art. Let's not forget that.
After they spent half of their motion to compel accusing Gerald Faulkner of having no credibility.
Even though that document did win. That was the bit that annoyed me. If it was a very good piece of legal, I would have no problem with it succeeding, but that horrible document worked. So it just shows you they don't have to be any good. They only have to work. Let's face it.
And then that got removed. They withdrew it after the government came back and was like, I mean, you should be more sad that his Jim Bob's money is going to pay for this defense than it is for Josie's braces. I look fun. I have no idea why they need to know who took the screenshot. It's so dumb, the shit he wants. They want the data. They want to know all this shit about the screenshot. Like 2 things got approved, and one they don't even know if they even have anything. Everything else was denied.
They're entitled to for their defense. If they want to know what time that everybody went to the toilet, they can too. They can ask.
So when your attorney legitimately thinks that there's a conspiracy, so last week they thought that Gerald Faulkner lacked credibility, and now you're going to tell me that Gerald Faulkner was illegally put into HSI, even though Trump did not appoint him? He was working under Obama before anyone else.
And she just burped, by the way, in case you didn't pick that up. As I say, yeah, you look relaxed. The Fed's slightly rolling their eyes.
And now you're going to tell them to have anything. Everything else was denied. So when your attorney legitimately thinks that there's a conspiracy, so last week they thought that Gerald Faulkner lacked credibility, and now you're going to tell me that Gerald Faulkner was illegally put into HSI, even though Trump did not appoint him? He was working under Obama before anyone else.
Another burp.
What they want is the log, which basically 2 other people may have downloaded the content, 2 other officers, and they want to compare the logs to see if they had the same hardware. This is no different to me than
Oh, here, this.
like Todd.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This. Listen to this comparison. Have a listen. And I don't think this is going to go down very well.
So when your attorney legitimately thinks that there's conspiracy, improbable that is, like 90-some% of these cases, only 7% of these cases get dismissed.
Oh, well, we're back there, aren't we?
And I'll tell you how ludicrous they are. I knew when that, okay, so he filed that whole motion to compel, and you know what he got? A screenshot where he can find out who took the screenshot. And he also gets to know the date that the screenshot was taken. And if after the government came back and was like, I mean, you should be more sad that his Jim Bob's money is going.
Somebody wrote, does the glove fit? And that is, she was going to read it, and that's where she said that is.
I have no idea why they need to know who took the screenshot. It's so dumb, the shit he wants. They want the data. They want to know all this shit about the screenshot. Like 2 things got approved, and one they don't even know if they even have anything. Everything else was denied. So when your attorney legitimately thinks that there's a conspiracy, so last week they thought that Gerald Faulkner lacked credibility, and now you're going to tell me that Gerald Faulkner was illegally put into HSI, even though Trump did not appoint him. He was working under Obama before anyone else. What they want is the log, which basically 2 other people may have downloaded the content, 2 other officers, and they want to compare the logs to see if they had the same hardware.
All right, get ready for this.
This is no different to me than like Todd Chrisley is under federal indictment, and he is not denying that evidence was found. He's trying to suppress evidence. So instead of doing a dismissal, his attorneys are trying to suppress evidence. They're not denying that the evidence is there.
She just said it's no different to Todd Chrisley. I don't think Todd Chrisley wants to be compared to Josh Duggar. I'm just saying.
Like 2 things got approved, and one they did not appoint him. He was working under Obama before anyone else.
I've just taken it back so you can have a listen to it again.
What they want is the log, which basically 2 other people may have downloaded the content, 2 other officers, and they want to compare the logs to see if they had the same hardware. This is no different to me than like Todd Chrisley is under federal indictment, and he is not denying that evidence was found. He's trying to suppress evidence. So instead of doing a dismissal, his attorneys are trying to suppress evidence. They're not denying that the evidence is there. They're denying that it was legally obtained, or that it was they're claiming it was illegally obtained. So you have to do something for your defense if you're going to go to trial. So the lawyers are just doing what lawyers are going to do. Oh, yeah. Well, they said they were going to do an aggressive defense. But this is hilarious to me if this was what they were going to do. I thought they were going to do the constitutionality of the warrants or something. But the fact...
Here we go. Here we go. We've got the legal stuff again. Poppy Seeds, how can you compete with this, eh?
That they're going to do a conspiracy, and now Trump's the guy that's wrong. This is hysterical because they are obsessed with Trump. How could they turn their back on their savior? Trump was like the anointed God by the IBLP. Oh God, Amanda, they're not going to get this dropped. No.
Seems to have a strong enough case. Someone says it looks like they may have a strong enough case to get this dropped. And she's going, no, it's not going to get dropped.
Oh. Did you? Oh, Amanda. They also felt like they had subpoena Trump, yeah. Amanda's really worried. I'm sorry, Amanda.
I am actually, Wind Whispers. I am. I've been working on stickers all night. That's what I usually do while I watch KJ, because otherwise, yeah, either that or I squiggle. I squiggle.
I know she's really freaking. People will freak out. Do you know how unfrequently they drop cases like this after the amount of time and effort they spend doing things? Nope. It's way easier to get a state case dropped than it would be to get a federal case dropped.
Like Jessie Bear says, don't worry. They have a 90% plus conviction rate. I wouldn't worry, love. Google Josh Duggar law and crime and it will come up. The 14-page document is there.
All right. I'm going to go look at the document and I'll be back.
Okay, so that was the stream. So let's have a look at, see what they just said Google this and we'll have a look to see whether it appears. Josh Duggar law and crime. Oh yeah. Let's have a look. So it's a law and crime. So this is an article. So this is what the person was talking about. So Josh Duggar tries to dismiss child corn charges on grounds of Trump's Homeland Security leaders were unlawfully appointed. So let's have a look. In one of the most eye-popping arguments, in a flurry of motions to toss the case against him, former 19 Kids and Counting star Josh Duggar claimed on Friday that his CP charges must be dismissed because the investigation into him began under a Department of Homeland Security then run by leaders unlawfully appointed by former President Donald Trump. When federal agents started to look into Duggar in 2019, Homeland Security investigations was under the control of Acting Secretary Kevin McAllen, and the probe continued into the tenure of Acting Chief Chad Wolf. The Government Accountability Office later found that Trump appointed both men unlawfully, circumventing the normal process of congressional approval. Federal judges later ruled similarly, invalidating some of the agents' actions under their control. Oh! So there's already been precedents federally that, according to this article, so it looks like that Trump circumvented the process. So it says federal judges later ruled similarly, invalidating some of the agency's actions under their control. Whoa. Now, Duggar hopes to benefit from the Trump administration's actions via a motion arguing McAllen's and Wolf's unlawful appointments should torpedo his case, as the actions by DHS HSI in this case were conducted under the authority of individuals who are acting as officials of the United States in violation of both the Appointments Clause and the applicable federal statutory scheme for temporary office holders. The investigation proceeded without lawful authority. Now, this is the one that I'm interested in, that they've invalidated some of the agency's actions already. The federal judges have already invalidated actions that these people have taken, according to this article. So they may be in for a stronger case. I'm just saying, I'm just looking at I've got no idea what any of this means. Wow. So, right in a 14-page dismissed because Appointments Clause violations are structural in nature, Duggar need not show prejudice to obtain a relief. This is one of the gambits floated by Duggar's defence teams in its effort to scuttle accusations that the embattled reality TV star received and possessed a horrendous collection of dozens of photographs and videos depicting SA of children. A HSI agent testified during Duggar's bond hearing that one of the videos, I'm not going to mention it, was one of the top 5 worst of the worst that he'd ever examined because it depicted something to do with an 18-month-old. Duggar's defence team floated a number of arguments why some of the proffered evidence in the case should be suppressed. One memo released on Friday seeks to suppress evidence that HSI agent Gerald Fogger obtained in Duggar's cell phone when authorities went to his car dealership on November 8th. Duggar claims that Fogger took the cell phone after he said he wanted to call his lawyer, a point the agent appeared to concede at the bail hearing, so he did agree with that. The agent then conducted a lengthy interrogation of Duggar. No attorney was present at any point during Duggar's questioning when he allegedly made certain statements. Though Duggar signed a Miranda warning, his lawyer says that happened later. That, again, this could be problematic. Thus, because Duggar clearly asserted his right to speak with his lawyer, Duggar should never have been questioned without counsel physically present, regardless of whether he allegedly subsequently signed a Miranda waiver form, Jedoff added, emphasising timeline in italics. Duggar also asked the federal judge to suppress photographs of his hands and feet while in custody and to hold on evidentiary hearing. He also accused the government of failing to hold and preserve what his lawyers claimed to be potentially expulsory evidence from 3 unidentified witnesses. Listen to more of the background of Duggar's case on Law and Crime podcast objections. And here are the documents here. Yeah, right here. There's 14 pages, so let's have a look. Would you like me to read them? Shall I keep going? Just bear in mind, I've got no idea about US law and I'm not a lawyer. Well, that would be true, but that would be, you would argue, or I would argue, I'm not a lawyer, but I would argue that he was, you could say he was pressurized to answer questions. I mean, do you want me to read them? Or do you want to wait for somebody else to I just find it very interesting. I see why that person was worried, because what they've written here does make it plausible. If you read that article, you would go, wow, he might actually have something here. So let me know if you'd like me to keep reading. I don't know, can I get the whole thing? Yeah, I think I can get the whole thing. Read? Okay. All right then. So it's defendant's motion to dismiss indictment for violations of the Appointments Clause. All right, let me just put this down here. This is at 2 hours, 24:45. Okay. Defendant Joshua Duggar, by and through undersigned counsel, respectfully moves to dismiss this case based on a violation of the Appointments Clause of the United States Constitution, U.S. Constitution Art 2 So here's the introduction. This motion arises because this prosecution resulted from a criminal investigation conducted by the Department of Homeland Security, during which at all times the agents investigating Duggar were working under the authority of purported Acting Secretary Kevin McKellen and purported Acting Secretary Chad Wolf. CD hearing trial at 8081. Q, this was a HSI case, a Department of Homeland Security case, correct? Answer, yes, that is correct. Yes, sir. Q, question. Okay, so at all times were you working under the authority of the Department of Homeland Secretary and whoever was in charge, correct? Answer, that is correct, sir. However, as the United States Government Accountability Office, GAO, correctly found in August 2020, upon Secretary Christian Nielsen's resignation on April 10, 2019, the official who assumed the title of Acting Secretary had not been designated in the order of succession to serve upon the Secretary's resignation, because the incorrect official assumed the title of Acting Secretary at the time. Subsequent amendments to the order of succession made by the official were invalid, and officials who assumed their positions under the amendments, including Chad Wolf and Kenneth Cusinelli, were named by reference to an invalid order of succession. So there's a dot point there. See GAO decision of matter in Department of Homeland Security, legality of service of Acting Secretary of Homeland Security, and service of senior official performing duties of Deputy Secretary. And it says here, GAO is a 100-year governmental entity that provides Congress, executive agencies, public with fact-based, nonpartisan information at the request of congressional committees, subcommittees, or as a statutory required by public law or committee reports per congressional protocols. The August 14, 2020 decision referenced herein was signed by the GAO General Counsel Thomas H. Armstrong and is available at and it was last accessed on the 19th of August. All right. See Casa de Maryland Inc. versus Wolf. Sup 3D928958, 2020. Yet when Nielsen vacated the office and McKellen took the position of Acting Secretary, he was not next in line pursuant to EO 13753. Director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Secretary Agent, Christopher Krebs, was. McKellen's leapfrogging over Director Krebs therefore violated the agency's own order of succession. From this record, the court cannot help but conclude that McKellen assumed the role of Acting Secretary without lawful authority. Bold in original internal citations admitted. So the court actually found that the wrong guy was put in charge. Josh might be onto something here, in my opinion. Thus, the installations of McKellen and Wolf were in direct contravention of constitutional provision. The Appointments Clause, which the Supreme Court has determined is among the significant structural safeguards of the constitutional scheme. Edmund versus United States, 520 US 651, 5659, 1997. Violations of the Appointment Clause are structural because of its purpose to prevent encroachment of one branch on another and to preserve the constitutional structural integrity. Landry versus FDIC 204 F3D 1125 1130 circa 2000, citing Freytag Commissioner, pages 868, 878 to 79. Oh, I'm not disagreeing with Whispers, but his defense has to try and find every loophole. And this, remember, the defense's job is to try to get their client off, whether or not, regardless of what they did. If you watched Natalie the lawyer chick, is it Natalie the lawyer chick or something? She will actually say one of the things that she's a defense lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, is that she says she never asks the client whether they're actually guilty of it unless they know that if the client says because it can hamper the way that you defend them, often you don't want to know whether they're guilty or not. But sometimes they will say, yes, I'm guilty, and that's when you go in. But if they say they're not guilty, then they have to go by the matter that they're not guilty, and they have to work out a way to defend their client. So that was just something that I thought was very interesting from her perspective, as hearing it from a defense lawyer view. But sometimes they will say, yes, I am guilty, I did do it, and then they go in. But usually if they say not guilty, they don't generally want to know, because under their ethics, they have to defend them to the best of their ability. If they know that they're guilty and they're trying to prove that they're innocent, then they're actually breaking ethics. But anyway, so the term structural is for a set of errors for which no direct injury is necessary, such as a criminal defendant's indictment by a grand jury in a racially or sexually discriminatory matter. In other words, as the Third Circuit recently explained, an individual litigant need not show direct harm or prejudice caused by an appointments clause violation. But this difficulty to show direct harm does not diminish the important individual liberty safeguarded by the appointments clause. Such harm is presumed. Serco, on behalf of Serco versus Commissioner of Social Service, is at Security 948F3D148154. All right. So now we're up to relevant background. Duggar is charged on a 2-count indictment alleging 1 count of receipt of child CP and 1 count of possession of CP, Doc 1. Duggar has pleaded not guilty to both counts. So remember, because he's told his lawyer he's not guilty, they have to presume that he's not guilty and do everything that they can to find every loophole to show that he's not guilty. In his under oath testimony, HSI Special Agent Gerald Faulkner, well, that's why they tend to not ask. That's what Natalie, the lawyer chick, said. That's why she never asks, because you can't do your job properly. Who supervised this investigation on behalf of DHS HSI, testified that this was a DHS HSI case, and at all times, the federal investigators working on the case were working under the authority of the Department of Homeland Security and whomever was in charge at the given time. See debt hearing TR at 80 to 81. Question, was this a HSI case, a Department of Homeland Security case? Correct. Answer, that is correct. Yes, so question, okay. And at all times were you working under the authority of Department of Homeland Security and whoever was in charge? Answer, that is correct. Yes, sir. In October and November 2019, DHS HSI conducted a substantive investigative activities, including, for instance, obtaining and executing federal search warrants, interviewing witnesses, and obtaining documents. At the detention hearing, Faulkner testified that DHS HSI received this case prior to October 2019. The discovery disclosed by the government states that the DHS HSI became involved in October 2019. In any event, for purposes of this motion, DHS HSI's investigation did not begin until after HSI Secretary Nielsen, who had been properly appointed, resigned in April 2019. Hello, Jean. So, my first impressions on this Wind Whispers is that it's not as Katie Joy says it is, and we know that she exaggerates. Between December 5, 2017 and April 10, 2019, Secretary Nielsen served as the presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed Secretary of DHS. However, when she resigned before this investigation began, the Deputy Secretary position had been vacant since April 14, 2018, and Undersecretary for Management also resigned on April 10, 2019, leaving that position vacant. Under Secretary Nielsen's resignation on April 10, 2019, the Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, McKellen, purportedly assumed the title and position of Acting Secretary of DHS. And on November 13, 2019, McCallum resigned and the Undersecretary for Strategy, Policy and Plans, Wolf, purportedly assumed the title and position of Acting Secretary of DHS, and Wolf was at the helms of the DHS until he resigned on January 11, 2021. I'll be seriously disappointed with the law once again if he manages to get off. As I said, Harrison's not too upset. No, he's fine. As I said, it would be only a technicality that he would get off. It's going to be an interesting one to play out, to be honest with you. Thus, at all relevant times during this investigation, McCallum and Wolf were in charge of the DHS, HSI, and by Faulkner's own admission at all times, the agents who investigate this case were working under their purported authority. See detention hearing trial at 80 to 81. The Appointment Clause. Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution provides the President shall nominate and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court and all other officers of the United States whose appointment are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law, but Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President along in the courts of law or the heads of departments. Can they? I don't know. I have no idea. But as I said, it'll be very interesting. They may, I don't know whether they could redo the investigation though, because I don't know. The appointment of executive branch officers therein falls into two categories, principal and inferior. Principal officers, such as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, require nomination by the President and confirmation from the Senate. See Casa de Maryland, Inc. 486. It is undisputed that the office of the DHS Secretary is one subject to presidential nomination and Senate confirmation, otherwise known as a PAS position. See also, there is a Secretary of Homeland Secretary appointed by the President by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. So it looks like Trump appointed him without getting the advice of the Senate, and federal court judges have already stated that they were there unlawfully. As I said, there may be a case, depends on how they argue it. It's going to be a very interesting argument. The Senate advice and consent power is critical structural safeguard of the constitutional scheme. NLRB versus SW General Inc. Internal quotations, citations omitted. The appointment of principal officers raised grave constitutional concerns because the appointments clause forbids the President to appoint principal officers without the advice and consent of counsel. Wow. Of the Senate, yeah. This process is more a matter of etiquette or protocol. It is among the significant structural safeguards of the constitutional scheme. The clause bespeaks. Thank you, Lady Crane. The clause bespeaks a principle of limitation by dividing the power to appoint the principal federal officers between the executive and legislative branches. It's confusing. You think, yes. So from what I can understand, or from what their argument is that usually when there is a vacancy, there is an order of succession. It seems that the two people appointed into the department weren't the next in line, and it didn't go to the Senate for approval. And that is the line that they're taking. So they're saying that technically they're there unlawfully. And the federal court has already ruled on a previous case to say that they had no power. So that is my understanding and interpretation of it. Remember, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't understand US law, but that's how that's my interpretation of it. If Poppy Seeds is still around, maybe she's got a better idea. So for this reason, the Supreme Court has expressly recognised that the structural principles embodied in the appointment clauses do not speak only or even primarily of executive prerogatives. Rather, the appointments clause protects the interests of the entire republic. No one, not the President, Congress, or the judiciary, can discard the constitutional command, as the appointments clause prescribes exclusive means of appointing officers. So he's essentially Trump bypassed processes. It is a bright line that cannot be crossed, and when that line is crossed, harm to a litigant need not be established. For appointment clauses, demand for a clear, casual link to a party's harm will likely make the clause no wall at all. That was from Landry. As a board proposition, structural error is so significant that it is subject to automatically reversal in the event of a conviction. So in Nadeau versus United States. So if, for example, Josh Duggar was convicted and it was overturned under this clause, it would be an automatic reversal in convictions. Federal Vacancies Reform Act and Homeland Security Act. The Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998 allows for a temporary filling of a vacant executive agency position that requires presidential appointment with Senate confirmation. It looks like it's the Senate confirmation that has not occurred. In limited circumstances, the FVRA permits certain individuals to serve as acting officials in vacant presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed positions for a limited time. Broadly speaking, the FVRA is an exclusive meaning of vacancy in a past position unless another statute provides an exception. For the purposes of DHS, the Homeland Security Act of 2002 comes into play. The HSA created the position of the HSA created the position of Secretary of Homeland Security, who is vested with all the functions of all the officers, employees, and organisational units of DHS. And then that's a publication. The HSA also created the position of Deputy Secretary and made the Deputy Secretary the first assistant for the purpose of the FVRA. Critically, for the purposes of this motion, Congress amended the HSA in December 2016 to establish an order of succession outside the FVRA for the position of DHS Secretary. Under the amendment, the order of succession is straightforward. Under the Secretary Management, the Undersecretary for Management is next in line to be acting secretary in the case of absence. So they amended the law. So if the original law stayed in place, it would have been okay, but they amended it. A statute does not qualify as an exception unless the provision expressly authorizes the president or head of an executive department to designate an official to perform a function and duties of a specified office temporarily in the acting capacity unless it designates an acting official. So the Undersecretary for Management is next in line to be acting secretary in the case of absence, disability, or vacancy in the positions of secretary and deputy secretary. Beyond that designation, the secretary may designate such other officers of the department in further order of succession to serve as acting secretary. These succession provisions take effect notwithstanding the provisions of the Vacancies Reform Act. HSA does not establish an order of succession outside the FVRA for the position of Deputy Secretary. However, HSA establishes the Undersecretary for Management as the first assistant to Deputy Secretary for the purposes of the Vacancies Reforms Act. So now they're saying what should have happened. So this is how it should have worked out. All right. When Secretary Nelson resigned on the 10th of April 2019, before the investigation of this case began, Director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Christopher Krebs, should have assumed the position of Acting Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. See Executive Order, the amendment. Yet, when Nelson vacated the office and McClellan assumed the position of Acting Secretary, he was not next in line pursuant to the executive orders. Director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Secretary Agency, Christopher Krebs, was, bold in the original, GAO decision at 7. Apparently, DHS mistakenly referred to Annex A rather than the EO. Mr. McClellan served as the previously confirmed Commissioner of US Customs and Border Protection at the time. Mr. McClellan would have been the appropriate official had Secretary Nelson had been unavailable to act during a disaster or catastrophic emergency. That is not the case here. Secretary Nelson resigned. A secretary's resignation is addressed in the executive order, not Annex A. By assuming the role of DHS and investigating Duggar through DHS HSI special agents acting under his authority, as Faulkner enthusiastically acknowledged on the witness stand, McClellan assumed the role of acting secretary without lawful authority. And they've got this case here, Casa de Maryland, which, as we've already said, was classed where they said that, as GAO determined, the incorrect individual assumed the position of acting secretary. See GAO decision 8. To be clear, the question before the court is not whether Secretary Nelson intended for McClellan to become acting secretary upon her resignation. The language of the document she amended the day before her resignation plainly applies only to situations where DHS secretary is unavailable to act during disaster or catastrophic emergency. Executive ambiguously continued to apply here as the DHS secretary had resigned. Was this under ICE or was ICE later? I've got no idea, Short Order Cook. I don't think we're up. No, so they're saying that they read Annex A instead of executive orders. So is this under ICE? No, I think ICE, I don't know when ICE came in. All right, so McClellan resigned. Wolf unlawfully assumed control of DHS, and Wolf unlawfully shuffled the deck to install Cicinelli as second in charge of DHS. Wow, it's getting interesting. The constitutionally stunning house of cards at DHS continued to crumble. McClellan, who the GAO had and the federal court had already determined had no legal authority to assume the helm at DHS. So remember, the federal court said that he shouldn't have been in charge. Revised the delegation of authority shortly before he resigned. On November 8, 2019, he decided the list of succession should be as follows: Deputy Secretary, Under-Secretary for Management, Commissioner of CBP, and Under-Secretary for Strategy, Policy and Plans. See DHS Orders of Succession and Delegations of Authorities for named positions. As a consequence, the revision removed the FEMA Administrator and the CISA Director from the order of succession, replacing them with the CBP Commissioner and the Undersecretary for Strategy, Policy and Plans, respectively. GAO decision at 10. Then just 5 days later, McClellan resigned as both Acting Secretary and Commissioner of US Customs and Border Protection. And based solely on McClellan's recently shuffled game of musical chairs, Wolf assumed the title of Acting Secretary. Wolf, who was installed as Acting Secretary based only on the action of McClellan, who was acting without lawful authority, then amended the order of succession for Deputy Secretary the same day he took office. The CISA Director was removed entirely from the order of succession. Wolf installed the Principal Deputy Director of USCIS next in line. Then he shuffled TSA and FEMA to third and fourth in line, respectively. See GAO decision at 10. Ken Cicinelli then assumed the duties of Deputy Secretary because he was the principal deputy director of USCIS. The bottom line is simple and set out in Gayo's correct decision. Mr. McClellan was not the proper acting secretary, which means he did not have the authority to amend the April delegation. When Mr. McClellan issued the November delegation, he did so without proper authority because Mr. Wolf drew his authority to serve as acting secretary from the November delegation. Mr. Wolf cannot therefore rely upon it to serve as acting secretary. This is very interesting. So it says agency actions exceeding statutory authority are invalid. By extension, Wolf's action installing Susanelli as deputy secretary was also invalid. Wow. Katie, I don't think that this is nothing. This is actually, there's lots of questions here to be considered. Hello, the Fox. So it says, because McClellan and Wolf were each installed as acting DHS secretary during the investigation of this case, the DHS HSI in violation of the appointments clause and in violation of federal law, this indictment should be dismissed. Yes, that's what they're saying. That's the long and short of it. That is what they're saying. So it's going to be dismissed because McClellan and Wolf were unlawfully in their positions at the time. A federal court and investigation board had already said they were there unlawfully. And yeah, it's okay. As a threshold matter, this court must assess whether the appointments of McClellan and or Wolf were unconstitutional under the appointment clause or unlawful under the statutory framework for temporary appointments. The court can take judicial notice, or Duggar can establish an evidentiary hearing that neither McClellan or Wolf were nominated by the President of the United States to serve as DHS Secretary or confirmed by the Senate for that position. These are facts which can be accurately and readily determined from sources whose accuracy cannot reasonably be questioned and therefore subject to judicial notice. Actually, it looks like well, as I said, they've got to give it a go. In 2017, the Supreme Court considered whether the appointment of the General Counsel of the National Labour Relations Board without Senate confirmation was legal. The Supreme Court concluded that the appointment was unlawful on statutory grounds because it violated the FVRA. Justice Thomas, while agreeing with the majority's conclusion, authored a concurring opinion in which he emphasised that even if appointment had been consistent with the FVRA, the Constitution Appointments Clause would have nevertheless prohibited the appointment. The clause, he explained, like all of the constitutional structural provisions, is designed first and foremost not to look after the interests of the respective branches, but to protect individual liberty. As Justice Thomas foreshadowed, federal courts inevitably will be called upon to determine whether the Constitution permits the appointment of principal officers pursuant to the FVRA without Senate confirmation. This motion raises this precise question. It will be a shame if he gets off in the technicality. Christine, it really bothers me that that KJ just dismissed it and said there's no way. Reading this, it's actually, and looking at their arguments, there's questions to be asked. However, this court need not reach that issue if this court correctly concludes, as Gayo did, that the installation of McClellan and Wolf violated the HSA. To that end, as general propositions, vacancy laws are generally strictly and narrowly interpreted. So Olympic Federal Savings and Loans Associations versus Director Office of Thrift Supervision. Yes, that's essentially what they do. Yeah. I guess like branch stacking, they've rescheduled, yeah. And apparently that's gone against all the protocols. And it's already been determined that it was unlawful. So in sum, The court concludes the plaintiffs are likely to demonstrate McLaren's appointment under as in the United States District Court for the District of Maryland ultimately explained. So this is the court that this is what they're relying on. In summary, the court concludes that plaintiffs are likely to demonstrate McClellan's appointment was invalid under the agency's applicable order of succession, and so he lacked authority to amend the order of succession to ensure Wolf's installation as acting secretary. By extension, because Wolf filled the role of acting secretary without authority, he promulgated the challenged rules also in excess of authority and not in accordance with the law. On this ground, therefore, plaintiffs have established their likely success in the merits of this case. The court should be guided by the legal analysis and conclusions set out in the Gayo decision in the Casa de Maryland, and likewise conclude that McClellan's appointment was invalid under the agency's applicable order of succession, that McClellan lacked the authority to amend the order of succession to install Wolf as acting secretary of DHS, and that Wolf filled that role of acting secretary without legal authority. So they're saying the proper remedy is dismissal. In the rare but important instances in which the Supreme Court has found a violation of the Appointments Clause, the court has rejected the notions that individuals should nevertheless remain subject to the actions of those that acted without power. So in Ryder versus United States, invalidating actions by individuals given authority in violation of the Appointments Clause. In United States versus Providence Journal Co., dismissing case for lack of jurisdiction because special prosecutor lacked the statutory authority to represent the United States in a position for a writ of certiorari. Impossible. And then in Landry, violation of Appointments Clause constitutes structural error. Reaffirming the Appointments Clause is a structural safeguard. Structural error is subject to automatic reversal in the event of a conviction in NADA. Indeed, any array of decisions from the Supreme Court, the DC Circuit and the DC District Court have reached the merits of challenges to actions taken by government officials on the grounds that the officially invalidity held office. That was Andre versus Lara. Even when a properly appointed official might have reimposed the challenged action. Notably, the Supreme Court and the DC Court reached the merits in SW General, a case like this one involving a challenge to an appointment under FVRA. In LMM versus Cincinnati in 2020. So there was a case in 2020 where this was the case in a case in 2020 where they threw it out. Furthermore, the FVRA provides that all actions under an invalidly installed agency head shall have no force or effect and may not be ratified, as recently pronounced by the Supreme Court in response to suggestion that a litigant in such circumstances may prove prejudice. Our precedents say otherwise. We have held that a litigant challenging governmental action as void on the basis of the separation power is not required to prove that the government's course of conduct would have been different in a counterfactual world in which the government had acted with constitutional authority. Sealer Law versus Consumer, finding that the CFBP director is not an inferior officer, as her duties are far from limited, unlike the independent counsel, who lacked policy-making or administrative authority. The CFBP director has the authority to bring the coercive power of the state to bear millions of private citizens and businesses. Well, as I said, it's funny how dismissive KJ was, but there is substantial argument in this document, from what I can see. And don't forget, the government has to respond to this, so they now have to try and find a proof that they do have the authority. Thus, actions taken after such a violation are subject to blanket reversal, holding an advertisement for void ab initio due to lack of valid appointment. Moreover, recent Third Circuit precedent confirms an individual litigant need not show direct harm or prejudice caused by the Appointments Clause violation. Serco on behalf of Serco. The extraordinary difficulty to show direct harm does not diminish the important individual liberties safeguarded by the Appointments Clause. Such harm is presumed. In filing this motion, Duggar readily acknowledges that this is an unusual constitutional challenge in a federal court prosecution, but that should not factor in this court's analysis. Rather, this court should conclude what the GAO and the District Court have already concluded, that the head of the DHS at all relevant times during DHS HSI investigation, in this case, was occupied by two people without lawful authority. Casa de Maryland, Inc., as the actions by DHS HSI in this case were conducted under authority of individuals who were acting as officers of the United States in violation of both the Appointment Clause and the applicable federal statutory scheme for temporary office holders. The investigation proceeded without lawful authority because Appointment Clause violations are structural in nature. Duggar need not show prejudice to obtain relief. The court should therefore dismiss the indictment. And there's the law stuff. So the certificate of service. So they did drop the Duggars. So here's the thing that I've got. Here's what my summary is going to be. It's nothing how Katie Joy described it to be when she said it was stupid. Thank you, Jean. So she was saying it was Trump's fault. I didn't see that. From what I can work out, in the middle of that, they were saying that they reshuffled it themselves. So I don't know that it's entirely Trump's fault. It looks like they did the reshuffling in the middle, but it looks like at worst they didn't follow the Appointment Clause, and it didn't get Senate confirmation, and the court's already ruled that in previous matters that there was invalidation. So in November 14th, 2020, Federal Judge Wolf was not lawfully serving as DHS head when he issued a DACA memo. So this is the case they're relying on from November 2020, where a federal judge ruled that he wasn't where he wasn't serving. So it says a federal judge in the Eastern District of New York ruled on Saturday that Chad Wolf was not lawfully serving as the acting secretary at the Department of Homeland Security when he issued a memorandum in July that effectively suspended the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, pending a departmental review. The judge invalidated Wolf's controversial DACA directives and also granted certification for program recipients adversely affected by Wolf's directive to file a class action lawsuit. Following the US Supreme Court ruling this summer, which prevented the Trump administration from unilaterally rescinding the program, Wolf purportedly, in his capacity as acting secretary, issued a July 28 memo directing DHS personnel to reject all pending and future initial program requests, reject all requests to recipients to leave and re-enter the country, and require annual renewal instead of once every 2 years. So on August 14, 2020, the non-bipartisan Government Accountability Office, Congress investigative arm, issued a non-binding legal opinion concluding that Wolf was not the correct official in line of succession at DHS to assume the role. Active quickly, the plaintiffs in the initial DACA case filed documents later in August asking the court to direct DHS to fully reinstate DACA, alleging that Wolf had unlawfully assumed the role of the acting secretary and therefore did not have authority to issue directives mandating substantial changes of the program's directives. So No, I don't know about the search warrant, but it looks like so in as early as so from November 2020, it was deemed that he did not have the authority, and so we're going back to 2019 when he first took on the role. It possibly could be a technicality, but it's not. It's not as KJ sort of dismissed it. KJ sort of dismissed it. There was no way it would happen, but they've put forward it seems to be a fairly solid case. Ultimately it's up for the judge to decide, but there's been precedences already. So for me, in my non-legal mind and in the reading of that, there are some questions I think the judge needs to look at. So I wouldn't say that it's clear cut, but it's a reasonable defense. So all right, well, thank you all for sticking with me. We've just hit the 3-hour mark. My voice is starting to go, but anyway, we've read the documents. We have seen that the person in KJ's stream does actually have, who was concerned, does actually really have a valid point about being concerned, in my opinion. No, it's not as clear cut as KJ said it was. She said, oh, no, they're blaming Trump. I didn't see anything about Trump. It was while he was president. The fact that there are previous rulings would, that there were previous rulings that said that they weren't lawful people, like it wasn't a lawful position, does actually work again in Josh's favour, unfortunately. Look, the government may now look at it and go, they could try and settle or they'll drop the cut. I mean, you don't want them to drop it, but I don't know. They would, surely the government won't want that coming out. Of course. Yeah, the previous rulings are working in favour for Josh, correct. And considering that they were from the end of 2020, yeah. Right. No, that's all right. But it's really important that we as I said, I've got no idea who that's my interpretation may be completely wrong because I'm not a lawyer. However, from what I can see, that's what it's saying. There's some cause to be worried that he could get off on the technicality from what I can see. But I'll be very interested to see what Katie Joy's take on it is because, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to timestamps on this. So if you're part of the replay crew, if you've made it this far through, thank you very much. You can also click the share the love button. There's a little love heart, apparently, that you can click on it and send some love. There's PayPal in the description that you can join as a member, but make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. This was a marathon. We've just hit 3 hours and 9 minutes. This was a marathon. I've got church. I will be on church is premiering in the morning. So for those of you that are coming to church, I'll see you then. And I will catch you tomorrow night and we will probably go over Katie Joy's reading of the documents and compare what we've read to what she says they are. All right, you have a great day and night wherever you are, and I'll see you again soon.